time to start stripping the cylinder head down. I'd like to change the valve stem oil seals. I would like to change the camshaft oil seal that lives up here, and in order to do that I basically need to take all this apart. The other thing I'd like to do is check the bottom of the head for flatness. There's always a chance that there's a warp in it, so if so, that needs sending off to the machine shop, and if the head's empty, it makes life a lot easier. And in fact, a lot of places won't do it with all this stuck on there. So yeah, so I'm going to start by removing this plastic piece so we can get the whole thing to sit level. Silicon, not great. We're going to need to replace that seal. I'm going to take the camshaft out, and there are 4 supports for it. 1, 2, 3, and this one 4. However, they are numbered, or in this case not numbered, so there's no number on the end cap here. Number 2 is stamped into this one, number 3 is stamped into this one, and number 5 is stamped into this one. I'm assuming in some engines or models there's a number 4 that lives here, but this clearly doesn't have that option. The other thing to note about these caps is that reading from the front to the back of the engine, that's where the numbers are legible. So just make sure that they're orientated correctly. That note is for myself, by the way, because that's the sort of detail I get confused about later on. In order to change the camshaft oil seal, I have to take this sprocket off. Yay! There we go. Right. One Woodruff key. Everything I take off gets bagged and tagged in freezer bags. It's the only way I can keep organised. Time to remove the camshaft journals. I don't know if there's a specific order, the manual doesn't state anything about it. Go. It's a little bit of scoring on there. Surprises me. I don't know what's normal, what's not normal, but whatever happens, that's going back in. At least it looks pretty uniform down the whole length. There we go. And this is the seal, and I think it's the seal that's actually holding us up. There we go. It's a bit of tappy tappy. Yeah, that's in a similar state as well. So they're not bad. They've just got a little bit of scoring, a little bit. And the same is evident on the camshaft. So I guess some crap's gone through it over the years. And here's the seal. I've got a replacement for this. I'm going to put it in the bag with the rest just to remind me it exists. Right, clean myself up. I'm going to wrap that in a cloth and put that somewhere safe. I sprayed some oil on it to keep it from surface rusting. I'm going to put that in a safe space out of the way. We are down to the valve buckets. These sit directly above the valves, and according to the manual they've got shims on top, but I've found a few discrepancies. I think there are so many models of this car that there are a few variances. I have to be very organised here, otherwise I'm going to get myself in a muddle. So each one of these buckets is going to stay with its relevant valve, or at least it's going to be numbered appropriately, because we can't get these mixed up. So like for example, number 1 will go in a bag, and the valves and springs will go in a bag marked number 1, and the same will happen all the way along. The reason doing this, as I've probably said 1,000 times before, my memory is terrible, and secondly, you really don't want to get these mixed up. They are matched and worn to each individual valve. So yeah, just a case of being organised really. So I'm going to start with number 1, which I believe, or I'm calling anyway, the cam sprocket end, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I need to check, but I think this is the exhaust valve because it's in line with the exhaust manifold, and this will be the inlet because it's in line with the inlet. But the only way to find that out is to have a look underneath. Let's see what happens. I've got a magnet, and hopefully, okay, we have a bucket. I don't see any evidence of a shim there as per the manual. Like I say, I keep finding differences. So maybe these just get replaced, I don't know, or maybe they're just non-changeable. Anyway, bag that and tag that on its own, and then we know that can't get lost or damaged. Okay, I'm going to work my way along the whole line. That's all the valve buckets out. They're all bagged, numbered and named, so there should be no confusion when they go back in. I'm not removing the valves just yet because it'll be a lot easier to remove them once we get the inlet and the exhaust manifold off. This is the bit I've least been looking forward to. We're going to start with the inlet manifold because in order to get to some of the exhaust manifold bolts you have to get this out of the way. I'm going to clean out these 6mm what are they called, hex bolts, hex screws, get the rubbish out of them, and just make sure that our hex drive goes in cleanly. The worst case scenario is we round one of these out and then it'd be an absolute nightmare. I won't lie, I am slightly nervous about this part. Just make sure it's going the right way. Wish me luck. Ooh, that was a bit easier than expected. Hope they're all like that. Number 2. The last one. Make sure that Allen. There's always one. And this is our one. Right, I need to regroup. Right, I got it. It took a few. So I tried to hammer it tighter than looser, and eventually she broke free. Is this going to just pull off? Yes, it is. I think that gasket was long overdue for a change. That is absolutely mullered. I'm so glad we're taking the time to rebuild this head. First discovery, there's a crack in the exhaust manifold. It runs all the way up here, so we'll have to get that welded or attempted ourselves. If anybody out there has any experience in welding cast iron exhaust manifolds, I would appreciate some advice. Thank you. I've temporarily refitted the rocker cover and gasket just to keep as much of the rusty crap out of the camshaft area and valves area. It's just a precaution really. That allows me to hopefully clean up some of the rust that's on the threads of these exhaust studs. In some ways I'm kind of hoping that the whole studs unscrew rather than the nuts. That would allow me to easily replace the studs. But God only knows what's going to happen. I'm going to use the electric impact wrench because it's a fairly low power one. It's unlikely to snap a nut, but the vibrations might be enough to get it moving. But before I do that, I'm just going to run a wire wheel round the threads and clean them up as best I can to give the nuts a fighting shot at moving. They've also been soaking for a couple of days now in penetrative oil. Whether that makes a difference or not, I don't know, but it can't hurt. All of these I can sort of get the impact gun on, but this one is actually hidden behind the downpipe on the exhaust manifold. So I don't know what to do with this one. I think I might try this one first, because whilst everything else is under tension, there's probably less chance of it being loaded as the tension comes off the other one. I think I've just been tapping away gently with this. I think I've got movement. I don't want to overdo it, but I just hope I'm not breaking or splitting the stud, but there's definitely some movement there. Yeah, we've got movement. Okay, so I'm just going to wobble that backwards and forwards. I don't know if you can see that, but that is number one. The first nut off. One down, some to go. Are we loose? Yes, we are. Right, I'm going to work that backwards and forwards and then add some lube to that and get that one off. Okay, the back one, which you can't see, it looks like it's actually drawing the whole stud out. But like I said earlier, as long as it doesn't pull the aluminium with it, then we're okay with that. Right, moment of truth. Excellent. I don't see aluminium stuck to that, so I think we've got away without ruining the threads. I think the secret seems to be tighten slightly, loosen slightly, tighten slightly, loosen slightly, and that seems to break it, but I don't want to eat my words, so let's see how I get on. That's both back ones off now, and there is this mounting plate with the studs facing upwards. We've definitely hit a problem nut here. It is, strangely, it doesn't look rounded, but it is rounded. I mean, we've got nothing there compared to the bigger ones. It's odd, there might still be some meat at the bottom of it, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm going to have a think about it and regroup. This attempt, I've hammered an 11mm socket, impact socket, onto the remains of the 12mm nut, and I really hope this works. So here goes, wish me luck. We have movement. Oh. Well, at least it's off. All I've got to do now is somehow get the nut back out of that. Right, so that got that nut off. We're not out of the woods yet, we've still got two more to go. We've got this one and we've got this one back here. We've got another problem nut, but it's not rounded yet, so I'm just going to persevere tapping away at it. First breakage, very upset about that. Nope. Yes. Excellent. Wish I'd done that before I broke the other one. That one was courtesy of this Toolstation map gas gun, £66, and it's taken that nut off beautifully. One manifold. So this was our worst case scenario, which is a snapped stud. Bloody awful. I'm going to look into ways of removing that. I have seen, well, there's two ways of doing it really. One is to drill it, the other is to weld a nut onto that, and the heat might do what just did to the nut, and that is expand and break the bond, and we may be able to wind it out that way. So if we do that, we've got nothing to lose really. We can't weld to the aluminium because it's a dissimilar metal, so we could try doing that and see what happens.